Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to Our Nerdiest Thing. Today we have a very special guest. We are live with author Karen Gray. Karen is a USA Today best-selling and award-winning author of vintage romantic comedies with smart heroines and hunky heroes. Drawing on a long career as a performer, her retro 80s and 90s romances are populated with characters working both on and off stage in theater, TV, and film. She created Home Cooked Books, a boutique audiobook marketing company, in 2022. There, she's mustered a volunteer army of passionate listeners who promote books across multiple social media platforms, as well as review and retailer sites. Thank you so much for being here, Karen. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, it's really good to see you again. I had a
Yes.
great time both paneling with you guys and listening to you keep us all on our toes at Lust in the Low Country. So it's good to see you again.
Oh, thank you. You too. That was really fun. We did, for our listeners that don't know, we moderated some panels at the Lust in the Low Country Romance Book Convention, and we got to do an audiobook panel with you, which I was really interested in because I haven't been a huge audiobook listener, and my co-host Deb listens to audiobooks all the time. So I've actually started to listen to some audiobooks
Yay!
since we did that panel. Um,
No, you're frozen. You were
Did I
frozen.
freeze for you?
Yeah, you were
Okay,
frozen
you
for a minute.
froze for me.
Okay.
No, I was just saying I've listened to a few. I'm still mostly a physical reader, but some of them I've really, really enjoyed a lot. And then some of them I'm like, ooh, I don't know if sometimes it's hard to tell. Is it the performance of the book or is it just the book itself? That sometimes you're just not into it?
Well, yeah, that's I mean, I think sometimes there's just a voice that gets at you for whatever, like it's like your third grade teacher who you
Yeah.
hated sounds like this person. I honestly, because the voice is so intimate,
Yeah.
and you can't get away from it if you're listening. So there's that aspect, but in the best scenarios, the performance, the narrator adds, enhances what's already a good book. But you can't, make a silk purse out of a sow's ear in either direction. So,
Right.
sometimes it doesn't work, or it doesn't work for you. And there's no,
Right.
I think one of the best pieces of advice I heard from a very early book blogger who was a huge audio fan. She used to do, I mean, this was like 10 years ago. She used to do posts on sort of getting other people to listen. And she said she recommended at first listening to books you'd already read
Hmm.
to sort of train your brain to
Yeah.
be able to um, take in the information in that way.
Right.
Because we don't do that very often in our current lives.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really good point. I haven't done that at all. The audiobooks that I've been listening to have been completely brand new books for me. So that would be interesting to go back. I know Deb does that a lot. Deb listens to books that she's read before, usually more than once, because she puts it on in the background as she works in her studio. That's a really good idea. I need to do that.
But it would be interesting. But I think what's interesting, though, is what's changed in the past 10 years is podcasts. So
Yeah.
more and more people are listening to podcasts, which maybe their ear brain connection has already been re-hooked up.
Yeah, getting
We're
stronger in that
so
way.
visually dominant in our culture, but and there
Yeah.
and there are studies that show that there is a big crossover between podcasts and audiobooks.
Hmm. That's so funny because I've been a big podcast listener for 10, 12 years, but not audiobooks until this year, until, just the past few months. That's really interesting. I'm the weird one.
Everyone has their own journey, their own
Right.
path.
Right. Well, so you are an author, you're an audiobook marketer, you used to be an audiobook narrator. So that's, I mean, kind of almost every facet of storytelling that you have been involved with, right? So tell us a little bit about how that kind of journey took place. Which one came first? I'm assuming the author came first, but maybe not. And how do you balance currently as an author and the marketing own business owner? How do you balance both of those things?
Well, actually, I started as an actor.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and not just an actor, but my whole, since I was 11, I was doing all the things in the theater. In fact, the thing that drew me, and I kind of forgot about this until just now, the thing that sort of hooked me on the drug that got me started in the theater was this sixth grade production where we the music teacher had this idea that we would take the story of Rip Van Winkle and the album Free to Be You and Me that Marlo Thomas did. Do you know that album?
I do actually.
And make them a story together. And so
Okay.
she pulled this group of kids. It was like the gifted and talented kids,
Of course.
and
Yeah.
we were tasked with writing the show. And then I was in the show, but I didn't have a big part. I sang one uh solo in it was like Bill told Jill he liked to make things out of chairs. It was that. And but since then I have been acting and directing, and writing was kind of the lower level of things that I was doing. Did a lot of creating pieces. I did a lot of collaborative writing. But mostly I was acting and directing and teaching. And then when I had children, a friend was like, hey, this actor friend I know does audiobooks, and you just seem like you would be great at that. So I started doing audiobooks, and I actually started because I was in LA, and at that time most audiobooks were abridged. This was the dark ages. And
Oh,
it was like the only person I could get on the phone was someone who edited books that were read by celebrities in abridged form, so because celebrities couldn't read a whole book. They didn't have time, or
sure.
maybe they couldn't even read. But
I was going to make that same joke.
yeah. So he said, well, I really need someone to edit on Pro Tools. So to actually edit the session, can you do that? And I said, yes. So I taught myself how to do Pro Tool, and I was terrible at it. I mean, I was really bad at it, but I was kind of just doing the rough part, and then someone else would come in and do the other. And so then he hired me to be his sort of production manager. Um, and then I was freelance doing that, and I was still acting and doing, I've always done multiple things, which is a really long way of answering your question. And I
That's
didn't,
what we're here for, Karen.
yeah. Long answers. So I didn't ever write fiction, and I like wanted to. I've always loved books. I've always been a book nerd, but I was really intimidated by it. And I have this ginormous editor that sits on my shoulder and
Mhm.
tells me that everything sucks. So, funnily enough, I taught improv when I was teaching college acting, and I actually taught this class about working with your editor and taking improv exercises and using them to be more creative in whatever your field was or whatever your desire was. And so, like 15 years after I was teaching that class, I figured out a way to get around my editor, which was I would write when I started writing my first book, which will never be published, but I would write these scenes and send them off to my friend who was supposed to be collaborating with me. But she never wrote anything. So she just was sort of my receptacle and gave me positive feedback. And
Yeah,
that just sort of created the channel for
that's
me
awesome.
to get around that editor. So but first published in 2020, which is not very long ago,
Yeah.
considering how long I've been doing everything else in this world. But yeah, so and all that time I was narrating. But when I decided to retire from narrating, I couldn't just write. You know, my kids were gone. What was I going to do? So because I'm a workaholic, and I had developed this whole community when I was a narrator of audiobook reviewers that I loved, and I didn't want to leave them behind. So I sort of had this, I reached out to some author friends. I'm like, would anyone like help marketing audiobooks? And they were like, yes. So
That's
that's how
great.
it started.
I love that you automatically went to something that can help authors, right? Like something you enjoyed doing, something that was important to you, but also reaching out to other people, not just doing it for yourself. That's one thing that I know we all really at our nerdiest thing we love about the book community and the author community, especially that how collaborative it is and how, I mean, some people are not very nice, right? And some people are not collaborative, but so many of the authors that we've met are just all about supporting other authors. And I love that. That's great.
Well, I think it's probably true for all authors, but I think especially the indie author community. Um, but really, if you read the acknowledgments of a book, there's always like 14 authors that this
Yeah,
author is thanking for their help. And um, even though I always did that, like, I don't know, I always read the acknowledgement when I love a book because I don't want it to end.
I do too.
Yeah. And so, and I'm always fascinated, like, will some author I know from somewhere else be one that they're thanking?
Yeah,
And, but I didn't really get it, I guess, until I started doing it. And I was kind of alone at first, but there's just so much to learn that,
yeah.
and maybe it's how I learn, but I really learn best from talking to other people and hearing, their experiences. Um, and I have a lot of opinions, so I'm always happy to share mine.
I'm the same way. I have a lot of opinions. They're all very passionate. And of course, they're all correct. So,
Yes, my husband's motto is often wrong, never unsure. That is also the name of our trivia team.
oh, that's a perfect name for a trivia team. That's so great.
Yes.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your writing. So you describe your writing as retro romance. So they're all set in the 80s or the 90s. Is that
So far, although I am literally just starting to write my first contemporary, so we'll see if I
nice?
can do it.
So what made you decide or maybe inspired you to have your books set in the 80s and 90s as opposed to today?
Well, I think it was because I really wanted to, having lived in many different acting worlds, just because of work I did in various situations, and my husband who works in film and TV. Like, I know celebrities, I've hung out with some celebrities, but most of the people I know are journeyman actors,
Hmm.
actors who just make their living either just acting, but doing, the kind of person you see and you're like, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah, what have I
Yeah,
seen that person
yeah,
in?
I've seen him before. Um, or like in Boston, which is where I started my career, I everybody teaches and or does industrial films and has some other gig, but they are a professional actor, and I kind of wanted to share the experience of what it's like to be that kind of actor, because I don't think many people get to see sort of that part. What's that like to
Sure, yeah.
be, like, in my first book, um the main character, he books his first audition. I mean, he books his first commercial, and he's really excited, but he's doing a play, and the schedule they give him changes at the last minute, and
Mm.
he ends up having to literally race from finishing doing the commercial and arriving just in time to go on to, like, throw his costume on and go on stage.
Oh my gosh, that
And
would stress me out so much.
this happened to me
Oh my gosh.
shooting like the exact same commercial. So I kind of wanted, I wanted to use a lot of my stories. So and
Sure.
those were happening in the 80s and 90s. So and also when I was writing, Stranger Things was on the air. And there were a bunch of other 80s shows, and I'm like, people are watching 80s shows, people must want to read 80s books. So I had to, of course, invent a genre.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I love that. We were talking a few weeks ago on the podcast about the Sweet Valley twins, Sweet Valley High, and like that's a very 80s, 90s retro and like how much we missed it, right? So I love that vibe. So as we were emailing about this interview, you told me that you have a book coming out with a female main character named Whitney. So first of all, wonderful choice in a
Thank
character name.
you. Thank you.
Is that the contemporary romance, or is this another
No,
retro
that's
romance?
the last book in my 90s series,
Okay,
which is called Carolina Classics, and it's a four-book series. It's sort of a major found family um, series about friends who've been known each other since kindergarten, and then right after college, and they like live together in college, they um, there's a fight and the two guys end up going west and the three women stay in North Carolina in the coastal town. But this is it's which is based on Wilmington, where I lived for 10 years, and where Dawson's Creek was
sure.
shot, as well as One Tree Hill. So again, I was living in Wilmington, and I mean, One Tree Hill and Dawson's Creek are still everywhere in that
Yeah.
town. I mean, people are constantly talking about it, and people remember things, and people, oh, I was an extra, oh, I did this. So I thought it would be fun to write a show about people who work on a show called Lawson's Reach.
I love that.
So, there's tons of little Easter eggs for people who know the area or who know the show.
Sure.
One fun thing so anyway, they break up, the group breaks up in the early 90s, but then right when Dawson's Creek started shooting, or Lawson's Reach, they all end up back in town together. And there's still tensions and still things they have to work out. And then they each will also have a romance. So the group just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And then this final book, and they're all standalones, but there's been hints along the way that something is off with Whitney. She's kind of the princess. She's kind of spoiled. She's the pretty little blonde, and but she's problematic, and you don't know why until this
Yeah.
book.
Okay, I definitely am gonna be reading these. I love the Stranger Things, that whole the retro. And if there's, I mean, if somebody that's not horrible that has my name, I always
And
love that.
there are moments throughout the series where you might not like her, you might be mad
Oh,
at her,
sure.
but it all is clear in this book why she is the way she is, and then she gets her. She has to, I call my books romantic comedies, but I put people through the ringer, both the characters and the readers.
Yeah.
There's just funny bits along the way just to lighten things up, but
That's a
absolutely.
well-rounded story and a well-rounded character to have all the emotions.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's life. That's great. I love Dawson's Creek is one of those shows that I was not allowed to watch when I
Oh, yeah.
but I watched it anyway. So,
I have to go to my friend's house tonight. We're studying.
yeah. Yeah, or we figured out way back in the day when they used to have parent locks on like cable TV, but we always figured out the code within 24 hours and my parents kept having to change it. So can thank my sister for that one. So you talked earlier, you mentioned doing a lot of collaborative projects. And I know that you have a shared world collaborative project that's coming up. What can you tell us about that project?
Well, the official announcement release won't happen until I think after this airs, but I got permission. So this has been a secret. This is a secret right now.
An
But
exclusive scoop.
yes, this is an exclusive scoop.
That's
So
exciting.
I'm working with four other steamy rom-com writers. We are creating a series. So it's kind of similar to the mom-com series, actually,
Sure.
in that each of us is writing a book, and we've created this world of together. The town is called Forklick, New York. Um, and it's a farming town. And so this is the story of five siblings, and what happens when they inherit the family farm. And there's
Okay.
a massive problem. right at the beginning. So each of us is taking a sibling, and we will be going through the challenges that they face both with the farm, with their siblings, and all uh, the conflicts that they come into the series with. And then, of course, each one will have a love interest that comes in from the outside. So we've been the funny thing about this series is that we can't seem to like settle on a way to communicate. So we are like we have Google folders and Google Docs. We talk on Facebook Messenger. We started a Discord. Um, and we also, some of us talk on WhatsApp, but because we're in other groups, and then we sort of bring up related issues. So it is just,
Sure.
and now we meet once a week on Zoom. Although today we moved to Discord. So it's a lot, but it is so fun. And it is,
I
two
love
of us
that.
have a theater background. So for us, we're like, this is awesome. This is the
Yeah,
best way to create things because we're really talking through each book together. We just went through our cover designs, and oh my God, the Facebook Messenger thread on the cover designs, it must go on for, I don't know, if you put it on page, it would be like the length of my house. It's just forever commenting back and forth.
that's great.
But it's been fun.
I love that collaborative. I hadn't heard of that before the mom coms. I love that more authors are coming together to do things together because writing can be extremely isolating. You're doing so much work on all these characters in this world that you've built. I love that you all are finding ways to not be so isolated and be more creative. And I'm sure that's very inspiring talking to other people and bouncing ideas off of each other and just having a fresh not necessarily a fresh pair of eyes, but that same basic idea, right? Of just a different perspective. I think that's really fun.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it's something that a lot of authors do, but there's various levels of collaboration, and we are doing,
Sure.
I think, one of the more intense levels because we have characters, like there's a grandma that goes throughout the book, there's a sheep
Right.
that goes throughout the book. There's, so, and we have spreadsheets of,
Yeah.
all the places and the recurring characters and what the main characters are like, and all that sort of thing. Whereas sometimes it's just a place and an event and a time, and you do whatever you want,
Hmm.
bringing it in. But so this is a lot of work, but I
Yeah.
think we're having so much fun with it. And the other part is I hope that we share each other's audiences, that we bring each individual person's audience to the group,
Sure.
and maybe, oh, I didn't know that other author. I'm going to read her other books, kind of thing.
Yes, some of the best books that I've read in the past 12 months have been because another author pointed me to this new to me author, and that goes back to the collaborative, supportive community. I love that so much. Well, we're going to move into a couple of speed rounds. So we're going to do a this or that steamy romance edition. So I'm just going to give you two options and you tell me which one you prefer. And this
Okay.
can be either as a reader or as a writer, however you want to think about it. All right. Second chance or dark romance?
Second chance.
Brother's best friend or best friend's dad?
Oh, brother's best friend. Cannot, can't, no.
Oh, that was such a great response.
Yeah.
Biker or billionaire?
I don't really like either of them. I'm not,
Oh,
yeah, I'm like such a freaking liberal that the only billionaire stories I like are Annika Martin's. I don't know why those are better for me, but they're so funny. And I haven't, and the only biker story I've ever read was a Penny Reed. So if I like either of them, they're sort of off.
yeah. What
So
about a secret third option? What would your main male character persona be?
cinnamon roll. I'm a cinnamon roll
Yeah,
girl. I like
I
the
love
nice
that.
guys.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
The
This
broken, wounded nice guys.
Yeah, no, I like those. I'm right
They
there
can be
with you.
grouchy, but
This one is specific to you writing. So when writing a sex scene, do you do research or do you just use your imagination or both?
Um, I I actually have a book that, and I know you mean research like trifling, but I actually do research like there are books where you can learn, about what actually happens. Because even though like we have orgasms, we don't know what is happening
hmm
physically, and we don't necessarily know what happens to other people. So I
Yeah.
actually do that. I do that kind of research, as well as my imagination, and then,
Yeah. No,
yeah.
that's perfect. That's research. That's perfect. And it makes for better reading experience too. Third act breakup or surprise pregnancy?
Oh, I think they both. I
Oh,
I, I
at the
don't
same
I don't
time.
like, the third act breakup. I think it's hard. It's hard to write. It's hard to make work. But
Yeah.
when it's good, it's good. So, kudos when somebody can do a really good one.
Yeah, that's true. It
Pregnancy is
doesn't
always
always
good,
work.
but as long as, there's choice, someone has a choice.
Mm, yeah.
And it's not like a band-aid excuse,
Hmm.
you know.
That's a really good point. And then the last one for the this or that, sex scene in an elevator or coat closet. And this could be
Oh,
coming as a writer or a reader.
either elevators, no.
It kind of grosses me out. There's a
No,
lot of
it's not that.
people.
It's like being trapped in an elevator is one of my. You
Oh,
ever watch the
yeah.
Damien movies?
No, I didn't.
Well, don't. If you
Okay.
unless you really like scary movies, but those
I
scarred me
don't.
in elevators. So I
Oh,
really
yeah. No,
let
thanks.
myself get on an elevator and not think about what's happening.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to tell me twice. I will not watch
Yeah.
those.
Coat closets are great though.
Yeah. So our last quick speed round is just a yay or nay for romance tropes.
Okay.
And again, as a writer or a reader, either way. Fake dating,
Yeah.
second chance romance,
Oh yeah.
age gap romance.
Yeah. I don't mind it when it's a woman or when it's a guy. If it's a real age gap, I don't like. It doesn't interest me.
Hmm. Office romance.
Oh yeah, most of mine are office romance or workplace romance. Because
Yeah.
it's where we live our lives.
Yeah. Holiday romance.
Um, I'm okay with it. I'm a little bit of a Grinch about Christmas, but I can be seduced. I read my friend Sarah Whitney
Look,
um
another Whitney.
wrote an amazing. She writes really good holiday romances. So and hers this year made me. I'm trying to think of the name of it. But it was about a guy who was a stripper, to make money,
Sure.
obviously, because, but, and who dressed as a Santa during the
Okay.
holidays.
Nice.
Yeah.
We read Tessa Bailey had a Christmas themed book come out, Wreck the Halls.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. I
did you
love
read
that.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I loved that a lot. We did a whole few episodes on it, and I did a couple of deep dives into Fleetwood Mac. I was like, this whole band is very like Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks. But I liked that one for a holiday romance. That
Yes, I did. I didn't feel like it was super duper holiday-ish. I guess it's
right.
Hallmark holiday that I'm like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, that can be a little cheesy. I liked the way Tessa Bailey did it, where it was at Christmas time, but it wasn't really a Christmas book, right? It just kind of was like it just happened to be Christmas time. I
yeah.
liked that a lot. So you've mentioned a lot of upcoming books, the Shared World project. Do you have any kind of time frames for any of those at this point?
Yeah, so my Carolina Classics book, which is called When I Come Around. Um, all my books have music titles. Um,
Okay.
so that comes out February 29th.
Okay.
And then the shared world project will begin releasing in May, but I'm number 3, so mine will be in July. So it's like
Okay.
middle of May, middle of June, middle of July, August, September. 1 month
Awesome.
apart.
Okay. Great. Do you have any events coming up or conventions that you're attending?
Yes, I am going to be at Readers Take Denver, which I hear
Awesome. Deb will
some of
be
you.
there.
Deb will
Yeah.
be there. Okay.
Deb will be
And
there with her design company.
yeah, kind of like that. I'm actually going to be there with my marketing company as I'm going
Awesome.
to be with the narrator group. So it was so funny because I'm going as Karen White and with the narrators. Um, Karen Gray is my author name. Karen White is my real name. And somebody in that in the Readers Take Denver Facebook group said, "Oh my God, I'm going to bring my Rebecca Zanetti books for you to sign." And I'm like, wow. But I guess that happens. The narrators sign the
Yeah.
paperbacks of books that they've narrated, which is a whole new thing. And just in the past few years, I think.
I
Uh,
love that. That's
yeah,
such a compliment to the to your performance as the narrator.
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna be the next week, which is gonna be a lot for this introvert. I will be at a Polycon
Oh
in
yeah.
DC. And then I'll be at Lust in the Low Country again, but that's not for like,
I know, 2020. I'm excited about the changes that will be happening, but I'm
are
kind of
y'all gonna go
sad that,
again?
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
we'll be there.
good.
I'm sad that it's so like it feels so far away, but
Yeah.
I mean it'll be here faster than
Before we
faster
know it.
than we can blink, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Where can we purchase your books? Are you on Amazon or through your website?
I am a big believer in making my books available anywhere and everywhere, including the library. So most of my books, mostly it's the audiobooks, but most of my books are on Hoopla.
Okay.
And you can request them on Libby or at your library. I sell them directly on my website, and then they're in every single retailer. They're in Kobo Plus. So that's the um, all you can eat buffet option at Kobo, and they have an audiobook one and an ebook one, and then a both, and it's really a good deal.
Okay.
Um, so they're there, and same with the audio. All my books are in audio. They come out tend to come out a little bit later because I can never cast the audio until I'm done, until I feel like I really know the characters.
Yeah.
I admire people who can do it ahead of time, but um, I can't even get the title until I've finished writing it. Although with the shared world, I already have the title. I'll tell you it's a secret, but it's called For Fork's Sake.
For fork's sake, I love that.
Which is kind
That's
of a
so
joke
great.
between me and my husband because we went to Ireland a couple of years ago with friends, and we all risked our lives with my husband driving a rental car over the country on the wrong side of the road and with the stick shift.
Sure.
But in addition to that, the car died on the side of the highway.
Oh my gosh.
It was not easy to get help. And we do. And finally, it took forever, but this one guy at the rental agency was so nice. And we finally get another car, and it's the same model and it does the same freaking thing. And my husband calls the guy, and when he hears what is happening, he goes, "For fuck's sake, James." His Irish accent. And so that since then, that's our mantra. For fuck's sake, So I had to do.
Yeah, I love that. And that'll be in the summer,
That's in the summer. Yeah,
June.
yeah,
That's great. I love that.
yeah.
Well,
So look for them everywhere, and uh, I actually have. Well, probably won't, I'm always putting them on sale too. Like, especially I try to get on Chirp, get those sales going. So
okay, awesome. So to finishing up, we always end our podcasts. I was going to say website. That's not the right word. We finish our podcast sharing what our nerdiest thing of the week is. So that usually is book related, but it doesn't have to be. It can be anything that you felt like you nerded out about or got excited about or went on a deep dive in some rabbit hole for whatever reason. So I would love to hear what your nerdiest thing of the week is.
well, Like I said, I am a big one for research. Like verisimilitude in my books is stupid important to me. I can't stand it if I get things wrong. So I was I had a long drive this weekend, so I listened to um the Cornell Cooperative Extension's podcast on farming issues. And so I was really learning a lot because, my our next books are about guys who have farms,
Yeah.
who are farmers. And my guy works at the Cornell Cooperative Extension. And so I was learning about farm agroecology and soil health and solar grazing and all these things that you never have to think about when you go to the grocery store.
Right.
But, making farms sustainable, both like on the level of the actual farm and the family and its soil and
Yeah.
um, water usage. But it's also a big deal now for farms to be resilient as the climate changes,
Sure.
as there are economic issues and all those sorts of things. So learning all about that stuff, which is it's like my daughter actually studies this, so I go to her and get help. But
Explain this like I'm 5.
yeah,
That's
I
what I
know
would
that's
need.
can I please could I talk to one of your professors? Can
Yeah.
they help me? But that is kind of one of my favorite parts of doing this. Like the book that I'm just finishing, Whitney is a makeup artist, makeup and hair. So
Yeah.
I had to have a long conversation with my hairdresser, but also one of the women who works on a show that my husband is working on does makeup and did makeup back in the 90s. So that was what I really needed to know about, like how was it different
Right.
and what was harder, what took longer, blah, 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 blah. And then the main male character in When I Come Around does what my husband does. So I went to the set and just sat there and wrote down the words he was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. There's so much goes into books that you wouldn't, as a reader, you just don't even think about the research that's necessary to make it authentic and to make it a good story and to make it the best story that you can. And as a reader, we appreciate you. Thank
Well,
you.
the best thing is like it's like my husband's job. He records sound in film and television, and best compliment he gets is that no one notices it.
Yeah, that's
know?
true.
And
Yeah.
I think that's the same with research. And that's probably one of my weaknesses is I probably try to stuff a few too many things in. Um, but I tried to hold back on this one and not overdo but I'm like one of the, what do they call it? Competence porn. Like when I read, I love some competence porn. I love it when people are good at their jobs and I learn about their job. So
Yeah, I'm like that too. I'd be all about it. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast tonight. It was so nice to meet you and get to interact with you at Less in the Low Country. So this has been a delightful little treat, and we're excited to see you. I know Deb will be excited to see you in Denver, and then in 2025 again at Less in the Low Country.
yeah, I can't wait. I'll have to see what new stuff Deb's got. She does some amazing
She does, yeah.
ish, swaggish stuff. But yeah, and maybe our 4-click crew can come and talk to
Yeah.
you guys this summer.
Yeah, we can do a group and we did a group interview with the MomCom
I know I listened to
authors.
it
So,
when I was
yeah.
in between the farm podcasts. I listened to you guys as sort of a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
You can only learn so much about soil health, at
Yeah.
once.
Yeah. You have to have maybe that is what it's called, where they give you like a sorbet or something in between courses at a dinner. Yeah. We're that
Yeah.
sorbet.
Yeah, you were my amuse bouche and then the sorbet.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. All right.
Have a good night.
You too.